The Times this morning has their front page story. Britain's open to the world's best talent, says Boris Johnson. He went out to unveil a new visa just before the Brexit deadline kicks off, and whether he's able to bring more people into the country can't be a bad thing that he's advising people to come. Can't be a bad thing that he's trying to get more and more skills into the country. Also, one of the things that he wants to do is to reduce the number of low-paid workers coming here from the European Union and encouraging other companies to actually start employing more homegrown people and paying them more money. Let's find out from Christine Jardine whether she thinks it's all going to work terribly well. I've got a feeling she's not going to agree with it. Christine, a very good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Thank you very much for joining us. A couple of things, really. Let's kick off, first of all, with the world's best talent. I'm calling it Britain's Got Talent for Boris Johnson. One of the things that I noticed from the piece earlier is that the caps that have been put on these sorts of jobs in the past have never actually been met. So does it matter that the cap is now removed?
No, this is just a marketing exercise and a stunt by this government. The visa already exists. They're just renaming it. And they're removing caps that have never been reached. So they're not actually changing anything or doing anything. They're just, rebranding, putting it out again and claiming it's something new. And that, to me, that's not doing anything to help the problem. That's just trying to market yourself.
Well, I suppose if they're marketing Britain, it's not a bad thing, is it?
They're not marketing Britain, they're marketing themselves. They're saying, oh, look, we're doing this, and that's not achieving anything for anyone. The visa already exists, and it also doesn't address the issue that we're going to have in this country and that we have in this country about people who work in science that we want to attract to this country, because most of them are not affected by this visa and would be on tier 2 visas, would be researchers, would be people coming to work in the science industries. And so it doesn't actually do anything. These are the people that we will need to ensure that a new immigration system actually attracts to this country because of the demographic we have. We need more people to keep things like science, academia, the NHS working and efficient for us, looking after us. And stunts like this don't help anyone.
But I suppose you would argue, if you were the government, whom I certainly do not speak for, they would say, well, surely if you are here working in research, then you move over from visa 2 to visa 1, don't you?
But this is about attracting people to say, come here, and they're not doing that. They're not making it. You need to make it attractive for people to come here. You need to make it easier for people to come here. And the government hasn't really come up.
Well, they're saying they're going to make fewer restrictions on bringing the family with you. So surely that's an improvement, isn't it?
Well, just rebranding what already exists isn't really making an improvement. It's just, doing exactly what I just said. What we need is something which will attract people to come here as researchers, to come here to work. And what we're losing is freedom of movement. And that is where, if you like, leaving the European Union is going to make a difference, because it will be more difficult for people to come from the European Union in these other areas, like research.
But it won't be impossible, will it? But it won't be impossible.
It'll be more difficult. And the whole point about Margaret Thatcher's vision, ironically, it was Margaret Thatcher who had this vision of, a Europe where you could move about freely, you could move goods and people, was that it made it easier for economies to be run, for us to attract people for jobs from the rest of the European Union, and that's now not going to be possible.
Well, it's not. That's wrong to say it's not going to be possible. It is going to be possible. You're just saying it's going to be slightly more difficult.
Freedom of movement's not going to be possible.
Well, freedom of movement exists. If you get a visa to come here, you can come here. That's freedom of movement, but you just need a visa.
That's not freedom of movement.
What is it then?
Doesn't demand a visa. That's,
Well, yeah, but you're making out that without... Yeah, but hang on. You're making out that without freedom of movement, nobody could move. That's not true.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that freedom of movement made it much easier to attract people to come and work in this country. And, without freedom of movement, it's going to be much more difficult.
Sure, it will be. But the point is that one of the... but one of the reasons why people voted for Brexit was that they wanted to get more of a control over immigration, and that's what it will do, presumably, because one of the things that is a problem for a lot of people is low-paid workers coming in from the European Union and undercutting the jobs that British people will not do for that kind of money.
That's an argument that we all had 3 years ago. And again, the goalposts shift. And, was it about immigration or was it not about immigration? People are arguing about that now. That's not where we are. We've moved on. And what we have to do now is ensure that we have the best possible system going forward. And this government needs to do more to have a good, fair, reasonable immigration system that encourages people to come here in the areas that we need. That's the challenge we face now.
So what's your plan in the Lib Dems then? What would be your immigration policy?
Well, what we need is to have a strong border force. We're talking today, one of the things you asked me to go on and talk about was the 200 migrants. And what we need is an immigration system that doesn't... We need to do away with the hostile atmosphere, for one thing. If people think it's going to be difficult to come here, that they're not legally, then that's when they do reckless things, dangerous things like, go and freeze our lorries.
But if it's a hostile atmosphere, why do they want to come here in the first place?
They want to come here because they're trying to... These are people who are refugees. They're asylum seekers. They're running away from persecution where their lives are in risk.
Yes, but why are they not stopping in France, where they're coming from?
They're not coming from France. They're coming from all parts of the world.
Well, no, they're coming from France. They're coming on boats from the French coast.
They're coming on boats because they are trying to come here, many of them. One of the things we talked about in Parliament last week was reunited families. Many of them have families who are in this country legally. And they are now the refugees from their country of origin as well, and they want to join their families. Now, if we had a reasonable policy, if this government had stuck to what we wanted and the other parties wanted to put in the withdrawal agreement about encouraging and making it easier for families to be reunited, sticking to the Dubs Act, and refugee children, allowing refugee children to come to this country, people wouldn't be forced to go to camps and become victims of people traffickers.
But why don't the people who... Yeah, but what I'm asking you is and I can never get...
Illegally.
But I'm asking you a question, Christine, which nobody can ever seem to answer. Why do they not want to stay in France? Why can they not reunite with their families in France? Why can't the people who have come here move to France?
If their families are here and they've got jobs and they've built a life for themselves here, why should they not be able to be reunited with the other members of their family?
Because we're a very small country and we haven't got any room.
Well, a very small country who has a demographic problem, who needs more immigration to fill the jobs.
Well, that's what you keep saying. But in fact, the people who are living here who don't have jobs are saying that they can't get jobs.
We've got very near full employment in this country, and we want to keep it that way. We want as many...
Well, if we've got nearly full employment, why do you need more people? You can't have it both ways.
We only have the healthy employment situation that we have because we are able to encourage people to come here and fill the skills gap that we have in many places, to staff the NHS, where our staff are overstretched and are doing a fantastic job under very, very difficult circumstances.
So you're kind of arguing two different arguments here. You're on the one hand saying that we've got full employment, on the other hand you're saying that we haven't got enough people.
No, I'm not. What I'm saying is that in this country, we need to encourage migration. We need to help people who want to come here and not create this hostile atmosphere which pushes people into the hands of people smugglers. And then you get horrific situations like we had just recently with the truck which was found where more than 30 people had frozen to death. These are people who want to make a life, who want to come here, who want to make a contribution.
No, most of those people were people who were being trafficked by organised crime. No, they were being trafficked by organised crime, right, who had lied to them. Most of them would have ended up probably working for organised crime. Most of them probably would have ended up working illegally in illegal businesses.
People turn to traffickers when it's difficult for them to come here legally. What we need is a better, stronger border force and to be working with our partners in the European Union to make sure that we have safe, legal routes for people who are entitled to come here, and people who are asylum seekers to seek asylum here.
Yes, but you still haven't answered the question. You can't tell me that everyone that's coming on these boats illegally from France is coming here to be reunited with members of their family. Some of them don't have family here. Some of them have arrived in Europe from parts of the Middle East which have been war-torn, but instead of staying in Europe, they've come here. Now, why do they do that?
They do that because they're trying to make a better life for themselves. Now, some of them are entitled to come here. We agreed targets. Some of them are entitled to come here. But because this government makes it so difficult and puts up barriers and doesn't actually do what.
But it doesn't, though, because if you get on one of these boats, Christine, you can finish in a second. The point about these boats is that if you come here on a boat, you will be taken off that boat and you will be given a house in this country. That's what happens because they're not sent back. So, in fact, they aren't coming.
Asylum seekers in this country get £5 a day to live on. They are not.
Well, why are they coming then?
They are coming here because they are running away from.
They're running away from France, though.
Mike, could I finish?
But if you won't answer my question, I have to keep asking it. Why are they not staying in France?
If you would just give me a minute to answer the question. The problem that has been created is that we don't have safe legal routes to, for want of a better word, control the immigration and the asylum seekers who want to come here, who are entitled to come here, and make sure that people who are legally entitled to come here safely. Now, because we don't do that efficiently, we don't have the border force that we need, and we're no longer going to be working with our European partners as effectively as they could, people are forced to turn to illegal.
Well, it's not working very well now, is it?
It's not working very well.
But we're still in the European Union.
The way it would work better was if we had, safe legal routes, a better border force. If the government invested in that and in safe legal routes, then we would be able to control migration and people wouldn't.
Oh, really?
Dangerous things like getting on boats, getting in freezer trucks, and going into the hands of gangs and people traffickers, and that is the problem. They are the people that we need to clamp down on.
Yeah, but why you still haven't answered the question, right? I'll give it one last go. Why is it that people who have no family here and who make it to Western Europe, which is perfectly safe, a place like France or Belgium or Holland or even Spain, why are they not staying in those countries and why are they coming to Britain?
What we have is a situation where we haven't created safe legal routes out of.
No, you're not answering the question.
I am actually answering the question.
Come on, you've had 4 goes at it now and you still haven't.
Can I finish?
Well, can you answer the question?
Yeah, I am. We are not creating safe legal routes out of those countries. And when I say those countries, I don't mean France and Spain. I'm talking about Syria, Libya, places where people are leaving because they're being persecuted. Now, if we did that, then we would have a much better immigration system. If we invested in our border forces, if we worked better with our partners across the world, rather than having knee-jerk reactions in a hostile environment.
You do realise you still haven't answered the question, don't you?
I have actually answered the question.
You haven't said.
You would have liked.
No, it's not a question of whether I like the answer or not. I've asked you why they keep coming here. It's not about safe routes. They're already safe. They're in France, okay? They're in Holland.
Safe.
Why are they not safe in France? It's in the European Union, the place you love so much.
We have to start the safe routes before that.
No, but they're already living in France, right? They then decide to come here. Why?
Because they're in camps in France, because we do not have a working system of safe routes from their place of origin, and they end up in camps in France and then fall into the hands of traffickers and gangs who put them on these boats.
So as a Lib Dem, what as a Lib Dem have you done to get the French to keep them in France?
As a Lib Dem, I have argued with the government. I have worked to get the government to include things in the withdrawal agreement bill, which would make it much easier to manage the situation, to reduce the number of people trying to come here illegally and provide safe legal routes. I've argued that with the government. We put amendments into the withdrawal agreement bill about reuniting families, about treating refugees and asylum seekers in a different way. And do you know what? It comes down to the government. They don't have, they can blame everybody else they like, but they haven't come up with a system which makes it easier to manage, that has a more effective.
Well, that's what they're attempting to do, and you're ripping it to shreds.
Because I don't think what they're suggesting is actually effective.
Well, why don't we wait and see, and then we can talk about it when it's been instituted.
We can indeed.
OK, Christine, thanks very much indeed. Christine Jardine there, Lib Dem MP for Edinburgh West, Home Affairs spokesperson. I don't think she answered the question, do you? This is Talk Radio. Let's talk to James, who's in London. Hi, James.
Hi, Mike.
How you doing?
You are a saint. I do not know how you kept your patience with that woman. I threw my tea across the room. Christine Jardine, you are mental. We do not want 30-year-olds coming here claiming to be children, you stupid woman.
Well, we also don't need to be told that they're coming here because it's such a hostile environment that they can't stay in France. I mean, really? If it's so hostile here, why are they coming?
Mike, I want it to be hostile here. If you're illegal, I'd want them here. and they come in here on their thingies from Belgium, and Christine Jardine wants to welcome them with open arms. Christine Jardine, why don't you get the message and sling your rock?
Yeah, well, that's why the Lib Dems didn't get much of a vote, I'm afraid, in the last general election.
Oh, Mike, I'll see you down in Trafalgar Square on Friday night then, Mike.
Well, you might do, but I'll be in Parliament Square, so it's a bit down the road. But I know what you mean. I'll see you there. James, thanks very much indeed. Gerard is in Crewe. Hello, Gerard.
Hello there, Mike. Your friend there just summed it up for me perfectly.
It's incredible, though, isn't it? I mean, how is it possible that these people, who are not stupid, who are politicians, that simply cannot answer a straightforward question? You know, I was asking why, if you're in France, in a relatively safe country in Western Europe, where you're not being shelled, you know, by the Syrian, chemical squad, you're basically living in a land where there's plenty to do, there's jobs available, it's not dangerous. Why are they leaving to come here?
Well, Lord only knows, but I mean, the Christine Jardine just absolutely. I wanted to kick the radio across the room. The Brexit MP filled me full of positivity, and as I was out walking my dogs, I was smiling and going, "Yes, she's right, great, let's look forward." And then Christine Jardine comes on, and I just want to jump off a bridge because she would not have it from you.
No.
It wouldn't matter if the Tory party and Boris Johnson was responsible for curing all illnesses. They wouldn't accept anything positive from it. They just want to whinge and moan and complain about it.
Also, they don't. I didn't hear any policy coming out of the Lib Dems there, did you? I mean, I said to her, what's your plan? Oh, well, our plan is just to make it easy for people to come here. Well, that's not a plan.
No, it's not a plan. I mean, they have this inability to do numbers. I genuinely do not care. I do not care where anybody comes from. You had your UN report.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Earlier. I don't care where they come from. I care what they're going to bring.
And what they're going to do.
Yeah, and how many of them. Now, there's something that the Liberal parties and those on the left cannot comprehend is numbers.
Yeah.
They don't do numbers and how it compounds. So she said they have family here. If one person comes in here, in theory, they can bring the whole of their extended family with them, which could be 5, 6, 7. It could be into double figures. And they don't seem to understand that. Your Liberal MP would be happy for Albanian drug gangs to come here as long as she could keep her precious free
guess
movement.
what? I'm afraid the Albanian drug gangs are already here. Because it's such a hostile atmosphere, they're all making about £1 million a second. It's selling cocaine to everybody.
As long as she keeps her free movement, though, her precious free movement,
that's the thing.
Who cares?
I know. Unbelievable. Gerard, I'm sorry I made you almost throw your radio across the room. How about this from to Watt? He's on the YouTube feed. No, she did not answer. It's easy for them to say they've got family here. They are probably other illegal immigrants. Well, probably right. And Christopher says, my God, your patience was better with her than mine would be there, Mike. Well, this is what I'm paid to do. Let's talk to Dave, who's in Norfolk. Hello, Dave.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Yeah, very well, sir. What can I do for you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I've got, Jewish in me, but I just want to sympathise with the British people at the moment and talk about the hypocrisy of my own people.
What hypocrisy is that?
Well, there's Jewish organisations such as the Board of Deputies that's lobbying for mass migration to Europe, but when it comes to Israel, they seem to don't want open borders.
Sorry, I don't follow your logic.
So obviously, you got loads of Jewish NGOs and like the British Board of Deputies and there's multiple companies like Israel Aid. They all help migrants and refugees into Europe, which is replacing the European people. But
well, how do you know they're helping? How do you know? Excuse me. How do you know that when you say they're helping people to come to Europe? How are they doing that?
Well, they help them off the boats. This is all on video footage.
Well, the Board of Deputies does. I haven't seen a Board of Deputies boat.
Aid. We've got Israel Aid. There's footage of Israel Aid that helps the migrants off the boats. They give them clothes, food, but they don't do it for Israel. There's no open borders for Israel, and I think it's pretty hypocritical.
Okay.
Do you not think?
Not really. No. Thanks very much for your call. Let's talk to Nick, who's in Croydon. Hello, Nick.
Hello, Mike. Morning.
Morning. How you doing?
I am very well indeed. This new form that researchers and scientists have to fill in.
Yes.
For a visa.
Yeah.
It's only a form, and I think any scientist or a researcher worth their name, worth their salt, should be able to fill in a form. If they can't, then it does rather beg the question whether they're the calibre.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they already have to do it, and they already have to do it anyway. The Tier 1 visa is currently in place, which is what they would have to fill out at the moment. So if they want to get one of these, jobs in Britain, they just fill out a new form, which is the new form of the visa. So I don't really see what the problem is.
No, me neither. And that Democrat Lib Dem MP on, I mean, honestly, he just won't face reality.
No.
And one of the reasons I'm sure the Labour Party and Lib Dems did so badly is numbers and the failure to face reality.
Yes. I think that's been a big problem over the last 3 years because they haven't been willing to face the reality of the referendum result. Then they weren't willing to face the reality of Brexit actually happening. And now that it is happening, they're not willing to face the reality that actually Boris Johnson is now a Prime Minister with an 80-seat majority and he can pretty much do what he wants. But
he's also doing decent stuff. I mean, the open borders, the visa change for the scientists and researchers. What a good idea!
Yeah.
He's not actually put a foot wrong, and it must stick in the craw of the left wing.
Oh, sure. And also, what sticks in their craw is that he's actually quite popular.
Yes, and still is.
Right.
I mean, it's just remarkable what it's done. One of the lovely things about all of this, what's happened between March and now, is looking back. If it had not been for Letwin Cooper, for Hilary Benn, Soubry, Theresa May's deal would have gone through and we would have had a lot softer Brexit than we're getting.
Yes.
That's absolutely delicious.
Yes, you might also add in Gina Miller's name to that list as well, because she was helpful.
Lady Hale, Joanna Cherry.
Yeah.
The list is endless to all these people who tried to scupper Mrs May's deal and did so, but only ended up with, from their perspective, a worse, harder leaving of the EU. And that lack of moderation has just shown them up. The irony is delicious.
Yes, it's absolutely right. You're very well said, Nick. They've completely been stitched up, basically, by Dominic Cummings' master plan and by Boris Johnson. Nick's absolutely right. Let's talk to Sharon, who I think we've got on a better line now. Hi, Sharon.
Hi there. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. I think that sounds like a lot of better line. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, my question is about the illegal immigration and the illegal migrants arriving in Dover. The people that think this is all going to come to a crashing finish with Brexit are going to be really disappointed, because it's a whole industry that is behind this.
I think that's the problem, isn't it?
And that is not what is being addressed. Nobody is addressing who is behind the people smuggling gangs.
Right. I've been told, by the way, Sharon, that the people smuggling gangs are now getting more money smuggling people than they would have got smuggling drugs.
I believe so, and I believe it's being pushed by various groups. This is a big question, and the political will is not. It's not just in Britain that we're not really getting to the grip of this problem. It's in Europe.
Yeah.
In the EU. They are not getting to the grip of it either. I mean, look at Greece and Italy. I mean, we are still getting, or we're going to get more, because the problems in Libya are brewing up.
Well, the problem for Greece and Italy is that geographically they're the first port of call, aren't they?
Of course. But the thing is, Mike, that the political will to tackle who is behind these people smuggling gangs and who is assisting the NGOs. I mean, where are the NGOs? Let's look at that. Should we start looking at the NGOs who are rescuing these illegal migrants?
Yeah.
Just at the point where they get dropped off in the sea. It's all a process. We're not joining up the dots. We have to have a political will to tackle the people smuggling gangs. And who is behind it? Who's funding?
Well, surely the way to stop it as well, the bottom line is if it is properly a hostile environment here and people find out that they can't be given permission to stay in this country, then they'll stop coming, won't they?
Well, you would think so. But again, I put it back to who is behind the NGOs. Have you ever looked at who funds the NGOs?
Well, the charities, you mean? Well, the charities, in my view, do an awful lot of things that they shouldn't be doing. But they're funded largely by grants, and they're funded largely by donations from people in this country who think they're doing a good thing.
Not just in this country. If you look and you go on to look at who the NGOs are funded by and the groups, you'll come up with some surprising information.
Okay, all right. Well, we shall check it out and see what's what. Thank you very much indeed, Sharon. Let's talk to John, who's in Lee. Hello, John.
Hi, Mike.
How you doing?
Not so bad, yourself?
Yeah, not bad.
I just wanted to expand a bit on what Robert said earlier when he was mentioning about, the decline of the white population. And and he said it's being replaced. Well, that Oxford professor said that by the 2060s, white people will be an overall minority.
This is the guy who formed Migration Watch, isn't it?
No, I think that was somebody else, actually.
No, the guy who's making these predictions is the founder of Migration Watch.
Well, I imagine he predicts the same thing, yeah, but the actual Oxford professor, I can't remember his name.
No, he is an Oxford professor, it's the same guy.
Oh, right, okay, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, we're already a minority in certain places in this country, one of those being our own capital city. And I don't think that's right. I think everywhere...
Well, you think white people are in a minority, do you?
I do, yeah.
You've ever been to Scotland?
Well, our capital city, London, we are a minority there.
Are you sure?
Who's
told you that?
When I say white people,
who's told you that?
Listen, Mike, it's all over the internet.
Oh, it's all over the internet, right. Well, there's a lot of things all over the internet.
Find Google and find official statistics provided by governments.
Well, tell me one government statistic that says we're in a minority.
Well, I'm out and about it a minute, but if you wanted to, I could find it.
All right, then. Well, maybe when you find it, you could let me know what it is, and then you can call me back.
Oh, I will, yeah. Yeah, that's no problem.
All right.
Okay, then.
Thanks, John. You still there?
Well, I'm still here, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I thought you'd gone. Let's talk to Daniel in Epsom. Hello, Daniel.
All right, Chief.
All right.
Now, listen, I've got a little bit of sympathy for these people calling in because...
Yeah, but why are they all reading the same stuff on the internet? Why are they all convinced, right, that there is this secret UN plan to replace everybody who's white with somebody who's brown?
Because they've all read the Kalergi plan online. I mean, I haven't read it for what it's worth. I've heard about it. But I've also used my eyes, and I've also read the census of 1951, which shows us we virtually had a totally homogenous country. I think it was 98.85% of people were white, spoke English, and were broadly Christian. Now, less than one...
We also only had one television channel.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is in less than one man's lifetime, we have what we have today that people didn't really want or ask for. And it's kind of been...
Well, that's not strictly true, actually, because one of the reasons the first sort of big wave of immigration happened was because people were needed to come to work in London Transport, people were needed to come and work in other parts of the country to do jobs that the British people weren't doing.
I think what you're doing, Mike, is that classic mistake of you're
I don't make mistakes, Daniel.
No, but you're forgetting that governments control immigration policy, not the people. You'll find it's always been unpopular amongst the people.
No, it's been unpopular amongst certain people. It has been unpopular amongst everybody, and you're wrong to say that.
No, I'm not. I think in the last...
you are. Well, you can think what you like, Daniel, but you're wrong to say that people didn't want it, because in the 50s there weren't enough people to go around to do all the jobs that were required to be done. After the war and after the government was putting in transportation in the tubes, they were putting buses on, people were required, and they were, and you can call it the Windrush generation if you want. They were invited to come here, right, because people couldn't do the jobs. There wasn't enough of them.
Yeah, to be fair, I wasn't really talking about Windrush. I mean, that's kind of obvious that they were wanted after World War II. That's granted. But if you put that aside, really, much of the other immigration... I mean, I've seen the town and city I grew up in as a boy change in front of my eyes, and no one really wanted to ask for it. And Brexit...
Yeah, but there are huge swathes of this country that are very white indeed, and they're not very far from London. Yeah, people tend to come to cities because that's where the work is.
Yeah, but Brexit, one of the big reasons people voted for Brexit was so the government, everybody woke up, we gave the government a kick up the jacksie, and one of the big reasons was in the last 6 general elections, Mike, one of the top 2 topics on the doorstep were what? The economy and immigration.
Yeah, but a lot of the immigration that people were unhappy with was from the European Union, right? And much of that immigration, a large bulk of it, is people who are white.
No, but EU immigration, you have to separate it. EU immigration...
No, I don't have to do anything. I'm just telling you what the facts are.
Yeah, and I'm telling you some facts now that EU immigration, all it really does is increase the use of our infrastructure and suppress wages, where a lot of...
Yeah, but that's why people don't want it.
Exactly.
So that's immigration that you don't want, which is white.
Yeah, and there's also immigration from the third world that brings with it FGM, honour killing, sham marriage, suicide bombing.
Some of it does. Some of it also brings a lot of doctors. Some of it brings an awful lot of computer scientists. Some of it also brings an awful lot of teachers and people who work in the NHS. You can't make these broad, sweeping statements, Daniel. I'm not going to let you do it.
Well, I would imagine that most of those people that are doing these kind of third sort of medieval things from the third world, they're not brain.
Well, I mean, I'm not particularly happy with Albanian drug gangs driving around London with machine guns, but that's not a racist problem, is it? That's the point. That's about immigration. Daniel, we'll have to leave it there because we're running out of time. But listen, I appreciate your call. I don't mind disagreeing with you. There's no reason to agree with everything that I say. As long as we do it in a reasonably civilised manner, that will be just fine.